So for chapter 4, there's actually two things as we see here. This is the introduction to psychophysiology. This is the pre-lab prep, and then the actual lab. And that'll be a common setup for where there is a lab that involves data collection. There'll be like a little pre-lab where there's a little bit of sort of background information, and then you do the actual lab. So I would do the pre-lab first. And, you know, again, you kind of navigate through the site just like you did with the first lab. The one thing that's really different, and that I will point out to you when you need to know it, is see this little book over here? Aha, if I click on that, yeah, it gives you background context information. So again, this book, you can click on it, it'll toggle you back and forth from the background to the activity. Now, I will tell you, I'll remind you, hey, background information can be accessed by selecting the icon that looks like a blue book, okay? And then based on the information there, there'll be usually these little questions. You can go through and, you know, answer them and so on. It'll tell you what you've done. And then once you've done with this, the pre-lab, that again, providing just the background, we go back to the little house icon here that takes us back home. And now we can do an actual data collection lab. Now again, this is data collected previously from a person, right? And that we've inserted here. Now, this interface is normally used for live data collection. So it's going to tell you all the instructions that you would have used as if we were in the lab. So there are things that I've provided, information I've provided here at the top that's going to tell you, is this something I need to deal with, or is this something I can skip, or is this something I should just read? So at the top of every page, I'll communicate to you. So here, this says, please read. Okay, so I do want you to read what we're going to be doing. These are our learning objectives. And then you click on the little arrow. And then, okay, here's what I want you to do here. Please arrange the measurements according to how effectively you think they can measure emotion. Oh, facial EMG, right? So recording of the facial muscles. I think that seems like a pretty easy way, or, you know, pretty effective way to measure emotion. Respiratory rate, maximum, minimum, those don't seem so much. Skin conductance, sweaty palms. Definitely. We all know that when we get a little nervous or upset, we might get a little, you know, perspiration on our hands. That seems like something that would respond to emotion. In this case, there are no right or wrong answers. It's just something to get you thinking about this. We click through it. Now here, equipment setup. No action needed on this page. You could just take a look and see if you want, or you can just click and go. But this is the actual equipment that we have in the lab and that we would normally be attaching to you. So the GSR amp, this respiratory belt, and then this bioamp cable for recording facial EMG. But again, no action needed on your part. You would just click on past. Once again, you get to the next page, no action needed on this page. You can just click on it and go. Now here, skin conductance, read the procedure. Okay, so it's going to be important for you to kind of know what's going on and be able to, you know, read this through, and so you can understand what you'll be analyzing in a moment. Now, one part of these graphs here that are going to become good friends is the auto scale button. The auto scale button is going to allow you to zoom in or out of the data so you can see it better. So look at this red line here. It doesn't look like all that much, right? I'm going to auto scale. Now it looks like a lot more, right? So it just zoomed us in. So the y-axis here expanded, we're zoomed in, and oh boy, now I can see a lot of small changes that I didn't see before. And so as I scroll through here, I can see, hey, look, this is called a marker or a comment. So during the procedure, the participant who was hooked up with the skin conductance electrodes on their fingertips to record their perspiration, right, which is an indication of their sympathetic nervous system. So we're recording that at the same time that maybe they experienced this. So they would have had their eyes closed. They may have gotten a loud clap, or what I like to do in lab is have their partner poke them. And that produces this beautiful, nice big rise. Now notice it's going off the scale. auto scale. Now I can see it. This is what I refer to as that skin conductance response. It's like a little hill. So your sweat glands turn on, and then they kind of gradually turn off again. And that's a very normal physiological response showing that you have a sympathetic nervous system, right? It kicked in, it produced that arousal because of the sudden loud noise or the fact that you got poked all of a sudden. All right, so that's all we're doing here. You just look at the procedure. Okay, that's what happened to the participant. So here's our data. I'm going to auto scale again. The top row has breathing. The person's wearing the strap, right? As you breathe in, think of it as like, you know, if your pants are a little tight, you feel that. So as I breathe in, my stomach cavity, everything's expanding. And so if I'm wearing a belt around my midsection, that belt is going to expand out. We see that here when the recording, this red line goes up. And then I exhale. My stomach gets pulled back in, my belly button gets pulled back in, and we see that go down. So inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Now, down here in blue, what do we have? Oh, that's the number of breaths, B, per minute. So it's my respiratory rate, the number of times I'm breathing per minute. So people breathe about 15 breaths per minute, you know, plus or minus a few breaths, but that's a kind of a nice ballpark range. And in this procedure, they had the person try to intentionally speed up their breathing. And I'll auto scale again. And you can see that, yep, their breathing went up. Here they're going breathing in and out really fast. And sure enough, the respiratory rate went up. And then in the next one, they're going to be asked to slow down their breathing. I'm auto scale. And sure enough, the blue line is now down to about 6. So they're breathing only 6 times per second. So you can see that they slowed it down. And then here they go back to normal. And whenever one of my lines goes off the scale, like the blue one here, I can just auto scale, brings it right back so I can see it. Okay. Now with this, that's all I need to do here. All it asks me to do is to read the procedure. So once I read the procedure and kind of see it and figure it out, I'm going to move on to the next one. More equipment setup. Again, no action needed, but I can look at the picture and I can see, oh, okay, now we're going to put electrodes on the person's face. Read the procedure again. The question here, so it always gets a little research question. What changes occur in the electrical activity of your facial muscles when making various facial expressions? And so I've added a quick little video here where someone's sort of explaining, like when I smile, this muscle here, which is the zygomaticus, pulls, you know, my mouth back. If it's what's called a Duchenne smile, what's supposedly a more genuine, real smile, then I might get some crinkling up here in the eyes. That's a whole different muscle. That's the corrugator. So, and if I frown, so I bring my eyebrows together, actually the corrugator is more up here. You get more of that up there. In any case, there's, again, this link to this little video here, so you can just click on those links. It'll open it up right away. And then, you know, so whatever video is there, you can just view it. Again, this is really just the data. I can scroll through and I can see here, oh, here the person's making a happy face. Here they were sad. Here they're angry. And here they're fearful. And the corrugator and the zygomaticus. And it does explain it, but if you're curious, why are there 4 lines instead of 2 if we're only recording up, you know, basically we're recording the eyes versus the mouth. Why are there 4 rows of data here? The bottom 2 are the raw data from the electrode. The top 2 is just integrating it, like kind of combining the individual little muscle contractions together. So that we'll use the top two in our measurements typically. And that'll be done for you. You don't have to do anything, but I focus, in other words, on where it's INT integrated. And again, that's, I do provide you guys some instructions for this on the analysis. But this, I just kind of want you to see what you're, get a feel for what you're looking at. Okay, so they're recording the person's face while they're making these different expressions. Again, that's just a procedure. Now I'm going to ask you to analyze the data. So here, there's a link to a video that I've made where I've gone through and I've started analyzing the data for you, or to show you how it's done. So that's our screen. And so there, wherever there's analysis, I've created a short video. They're usually like 4 minutes. It just kind of walks you through. I kind of go through the motions of collecting the data and kind of putting things in here. So I can show you, it says, okay, here, the instruction is to analyze the data. Okay, now I actually have to do something. So when you get to a page that says analyze the data, this is where you go beyond just reading or just skipping through it. Okay, now I need to actually do something. So what I'm going to do now is go down here, look at the instructions. I can watch the video to get a sense of it, where I kind of model for you how to do it. But the instructions are all here. I'm going to use the scroll bar to review the data. Okay, so I know how to do that. There's the scroll bar down here. I can use auto scale. There we go. And here it talks a little bit about the integrated signal at the top versus the raw data at the bottom. And then the first thing I actually have to do, use the region selector. There's 2 little selectors down here in orange. One has 2 little goal posts. They look like a goal post, right, for like a football field or something. And one has a single point. So I click on that and I get my, you can see that I've highlighted just by clicking on that, this area of the data. I want to select a portion of the happy recording. Okay, I can do that. So the person was happy during this period of time. Now notice to the right of the yellow, the lines are more flat, huh? They weren't, in other words, they were no longer making that expression. I want to highlight where it's kind of clear that they were doing something. So I'm going to just highlight those. And I'm going to scroll down and look what I have here. I have some numbers. Those get automatically generated. All you have to do is click on it and drag it over. So the corrugator, you put in the corrugator box. The zygomaticus, the one for the smile, you put in the zygomaticus box. And that expression was happy. And then I'm going to do that same thing for the rest of the expression. So the next one is sad. All I have to do is, once again, I'll click on the little region selector, these little orange bars. Click. And I can adjust them to capture where the person is, clearly moving their face. And then I can drag those numbers over. Oops, there we go. And I'll do that for all the different facial expressions. So angry, click. Now what's nice about this, as I do that, I'm going to scroll down and show you what the program is doing for us. It's making a graph. And so it's allowing us to compare how active is the corrugator muscle versus the zygomaticus muscle for these different expressions. So right now they're not dramatically different. Let me show you one that is kind of different. So I'm going to go to disgust. And again, I kind of want to just highlight where there's activity, right? So this is disgust. There we go. notice that there's not that much activation of the mouth muscle in disgust. So I'm not pulling my mouth back when there's disgust. But when I'm angry, it might be a little, more contraction there. Not very much. But there's more of the eyebrows because I'm going, ugh, right? And then we can go to the last one, which is surprised. And we can see what that looks like. So again, I'm just clicking and dragging my numbers over. Hey, look at that, surprised doesn't seem to use that same corrugator muscle nearly as much. So there's a whole line of psychophysiology research that attaches electrodes on people's faces and records their facial expressions. Because what we know is that when people are watching, say, a video, even if they're not overtly like smiling or frowning, they're doing little small sort of what are called like micro expressions. And so the electrodes will pick those up. And in fact, as we go through, that's exactly what we're going to see in the next part of this activity, where you're going to look at the facial EMG response to an emotional video. I got to tell you, do not watch the video. I can't watch it. The neutral one's fine. The emotional one, it's distressing. It's like, it's a surgical procedure. You don't want to watch it. There's no need for you to watch it. I almost deleted it. But so there's like, it says distressing, caution. This video can be very distressing. There's no need to watch it. So don't watch it. You get the idea. You're watching something that's going to make people cringe, right? And get kind of people really upset. So you don't need to watch it. But you can then compare the person's reaction to the neutral video versus like the upsetting video, which starts over here. And you can see like, oh my gosh, there's way more activity with the neutral video. I'm sorry, with the emotional video than with the neutral video, huh? And we can compare, see what happens to their breathing. So, oh, people start holding their breath a little bit. See that? Yeah. And then let's take a look at their skin conductance. Here, this red line. So it's up here at like 10 for the emotional video. And it actually goes way down. For the neutral video, it's around 0 to 1. So their palms are sweaty, right? Their palms are sweaty, their face is clenched, they're holding their breath.